Hello everyone. Tonight, we set traveling far back to the land between two rivers, where the world's very first civilization was born. So get comfortable, grab your pillow and your blanket, and let your mind drift with me through time. Because in the next few minutes, you settle hear the story of kings and gods, of rivers that whispered to the stars, and of the people who gave humanity its very first voice. And before we begin, if you genuinely enjoy my work, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what time are you watching this? Now, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's begin our journey to the mystery of the Mesopotamian civilization. They say the first stories ever told rose not from stone or scroll, but from the breath of rivers. Two silver arms of water winding through the ancient heart of the world, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Between them stretched a land so rich, so alive, that people began to settle, to stay, to dream. Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers. Long before kings and calendars, the world here was still wild. Floods came without warning, seasons whispered through dust and bloom. Nomads wandered, following herds, carrying the memory of fires that faded at dawn. But something changed when they reached this fertile valley. Seeds dropped by chance began to sprout, and for the first time, humanity looked at the earth and realized the future could be planted. Imagine the scent of wet clay, the call of cranes overhead, the taste of smoke and grain in the evening air. The first irrigation ditches that glimmered like mirrors beneath the moon. Life no longer wandered, it rooted. Simple huts of mud and reed lined the banks. Children chased the shadow of birds, and elders sat at dusk watching the sky ripple across the water. Each generation built upon the last, and the rhythm of survival began to sound like a heartbeat. But survival alone was never enough for the human spirit. With full bellies and safe fires came questions. Who sends the flood? Who lights the sun? Why does death return, as the river does each year? The people turned their eyes upward, and the heavens, silent and endless, became their first temple. You can almost hear their voices, soft chants carried by wind. They offered grain, honey, sometimes the blood of lambs, hoping the unseen powers would keep the waters kind. In time, these prayers took shape as gods, the spirit of the sky, the Lord of storms, the mother who brought harvest and sorrow alike. And so, belief took root beside barley and wheat. From these small villages, something vast began to stir. Farmers became builders, builders became planners, and soon the plain blossomed with the first true cities. Uruk, Eridu, Lagash, names that still hum with the weight of time. Walls of clay brick rose against the horizon. Ziggurats climbed like stairways toward heaven. At night, torchlight shimmered along the river, and the world's first skyline was reflected in black water. Imagine standing there. No empire yet, no writing, no law, only people learning to shape order from chaos. Every brick carried by hand, every canal dug with sweat and hope. In the distance, thunder rolled, and the people believed the gods were watching their work with approval. Inside those city walls, a new rhythm emerged. Traders arrived with lapis from the far mountains, with shells from distant seas. Markets filled with voices bargaining in early tongues. The first echo of economy of civilization itself. And in a corner, near the temple steps, a man knelt beside a lump of wet clay. With a sharpened reed, he pressed tiny marks, simple shapes, a record of grain, of trade, of offering. He could not have known it then. But that soft clay tablet was humanity's first memory written down. The air smelled of earth and oil. The sun set red across the plain. Somewhere, the storyteller says, the future was being born, letter by letter, mark by mark, the birth of history. But Mesopotamia was never gentle. Each year, the rivers gave life, and each year they took it away. Floods swallowed fields. Drought cracked them dry. The people learned resilience, to read the moods of water, to measure time by stars. They built dikes and channels, watched the sky for omens, and with each challenge, they grew wiser. They began to see patterns. The moons return, the rivers rise, the turning of constellations. The stars above Uruk became their calendar, their comfort, their warning. Every glittering point in the sky carried a story, a message from gods they feared and adored. Slowly, they mapped the heavens, and in doing so, mapped their place beneath it. At night, the city glowed faintly, oil lamps trembling in the wind. Children listened as elders spoke of spirits dwelling in water and sky. Remember, they said, the rivers give us life, but they remember every secret we bury. And as sleep fell over Mesopotamia, the rivers whispered back, carrying those secrets out to sea. It was here that humanity first learned the price of progress. For every harvest came envy, for every city, war. Neighboring towns fought over water, over soil, over pride. The once peaceful plain echoed with the clash of spears, and the gods, it was said, turned their faces away. Still, out of conflict came innovation, stronger walls, better tools, the first sense of law and justice. And through it all, the rivers kept flowing, washing away names, but never the dream. Pause a moment and listen. The voice of time moves like water, slow, patient, unstoppable. Centuries passed, kings rose and fell like tides. The people of the plain learned to build again and again, each city upon the bones of the last. And as they built, they told stories of heroes who sought immortality, of floods that cleansed the world, of gods who wept salt into the sea. In those stories, the heart of Mesopotamia still beats. Tonight, as you drift deeper into this memory, picture the rivers shimmering beneath a silver sky. Somewhere on their banks, a scribe seals another tablet. A child stares into the stars. A mother hums a prayer to the goddess of grain. The night smells of clay and smoke, and civilization itself is breathing in its sleep. Yet, beyond the horizon, change is stirring. From the north, strangers will come, people who speak a new tongue, who dream of one king over all cities. They will bring both unity and ruin, and the first empire the world has ever known. For now the rivers still flow gently, their waters gleaming under the moon. But soon they will carry the reflection of something vast, a power born from ambition, a dream called Akkad. The rivers still whisper through the heart of Mesopotamia. The night air carries the scent of silt and fire, and from that fertile silence, something remarkable begins to rise. They are no longer scattered villages or lonely farms along the banks. They are beginning to gather, to build together, to live together, to dream together. The world is changing. Humanity is about to take its first step into civilization. This is the dawn of cities. In the soft light of the morning sun, you can almost see them. People moving across the plain, carrying baskets of clay and reeds, their feet sinking into the mud, their eyes bright with purpose. They are building something that has never existed before. A home not just for families, but for ideas, for gods, for stories. From the dust and sweat of their hands, the city of Uruk begins to take shape. At first, it is only a gathering of huts, circular, simple, made from the earth itself. But as generations pass, the walls rise higher, and towers of baked brick catch the light like fire in the afternoon sun. Uruk, the first true city in all of human history. Its people call themselves the children of the goddess Inanna, Lady of Love, War, and the Morning Star. Her temple stands at the city Sep's heart, a great ziggurat of sun-dried brick that glows golden at dawn. Around it, the city hums with life. Farmers bringing grain from the fields, potters shaping jars, weavers turning wool into cloth. At night, the air fills with music. Drums echo through narrow streets, and dancers move like the flicker of flame. The people of Uruk have begun to taste something new, pride. They are no longer just survivors, they are creators. To the south, another city rises, Eridu, the oldest and most sacred. The priests say it was built by the gods themselves, that its foundations touch the underworld, and that its waters are blessed by Enki, Lord of Wisdom. Imagine walking there at sunset. The streets are narrow, the walls warm with the day's heat. Incense drifts from open doorways, and the sound of chanting floats from the temple steps. Every brick seems to hold a secret, a whisper of prayers offered long before your time. These early cities are not like ours. They breathe, they pulse, they are alive. Each one has its own god, its own rhythm, its own heart. Uruk beats to the drum of Inanna. Eridu flows with the wisdom of Enki. Lagash, Kish, Nippur. Each rises and falls like a note in a long, eternal song. In the marketplace, voices mingle. Traders bring lapis lazuli from the far mountains of Afghanistan, copper from Oman, and timber from the distant lands of Lebanon. The world, for the first time, begins to connect. Coins do not exist yet. Instead, people trade in grain, silver rings, and clay tokens, symbols of value, of trust, of exchange. But soon, someone will need to keep track, to remember how much was given, how much was owed. And that need will change the world forever. For now, though, the people build. Their cities stretch higher, their canals run deeper. Fields of barley sway in the wind like a golden ocean. They invent new tools, the plow, the wheel, the sail. Each invention ripples outward, turning effort into abundance, and abundance into ambition. And with ambition comes hierarchy. A voice rises above the others, the voice of the king. He is more than a ruler. He is the bridge between people and gods. When he speaks, the city listens. When he commands, thousands move like one. His power is sacred, his word eternal. Or so the priests say, as they carve his victories into stone. But power is a flame. It warms, it lights, it inspires, and it burns. Somewhere, the faint sound of thunder rolls across the horizon. The cities grow restless. Their kings grow proud. Walls rise taller, armies stronger, and the once open plains become borders, boundaries, claims. Mesopotamia, the land between rivers, is also becoming the land between wars. Still, amid this tension, art blossoms. Jewelry glimmers with gold and lapis. Statues of gods gaze from temple halls, their eyes inlaid with shell and obsidian, watching all who enter. Everywhere, beauty hides beside fear, a strange balance that only early civilization could create. In the courtyards of Uruk, scribes sit with clay tablets and styluses of reed. They count jars of grain, herds of goats, offerings to temples. Each mark they make has meaning. A shape for sheep, another for silver, another for the word king. Though they do not yet know it, these tiny marks are the beginning of writing itself. Soon, symbols will form words. Words will form stories. And the story of Mesopotamia will no longer live only in voices. It will live forever in clay. But that is still to come. For now, the people of Uruk dream beneath a canopy of stars, their city glowing faintly in the moonlight. They do not know that thousands of years later, people will call this the first civilization. They only know the sound of the river, the warmth of their fires, and the rhythm of their work and worship. At dawn, the storyteller continues. The priests climb the temple steps to greet the sun. They pour water over the altar, singing to the gods for mercy and renewal. The king stands beside them, his robe heavy with gold and linen, his face solemn in the light. Behind him, thousands watch in silence, a sea of humanity, bound by faith, by fear, by hope. A priest raises his hands. The crowd bows low, and in that moment, the city breathes as one. The sound of the river fades behind the music of voices, and time itself seems to hold its breath. As night returns, the fires burn again across the plain. Smoke curls into the dark sky, carrying the scent of incense and dreams. Children fall asleep to stories of gods walking among men, of a king named Gilgamesh, whose name will echo through eternity. But that story has not yet been told. It waits beyond the horizon of this episode, a legend rising with the next dawn. For now, the people of Mesopotamia sleep, their hearts steady, their cities alive, and the rivers, eternal as time, flow gently past their walls, whispering the same promise they always have, that nothing built upon their shores will ever truly be forgotten. The storyteller's sip's voice falls to a whisper. History has opened its eyes, but what it sees next will change everything. The people of the rivers are about to give the world a voice. The pressed in clay, shaped by hand, and sealed forever in time. The night is calm again over Mesopotamia. The two rivers glimmer beneath the silver moon, curling like twin serpents across the sleeping plain. The fires in Uruk have burned low. The city dreams, and somewhere in the flickering light of a single oil lamp, a hand presses into clay. A small tablet rests upon a wooden board. The surface is smooth and cool, freshly cut from the river scepter's edge. The hand belongs to a man, a scribe. He leans close, his breath soft, his eyes tracing each careful mark. He does not yet know it, but this simple act will change the world forever. In the beginning, writing was not for poems or prayers. It was born from necessity, a way to remember what the human mind could no longer hold. The cities had grown vast. Grain moved by the thousands of baskets, herds counted by hundreds, trades stretching across the horizon, and memory once enough for a tribe was now too small for a civilization. So the scribes began to mark. Each symbol meant something. A jar, a sheep, a debt, a promise. They used reeds cut from the riverbank, pressing the tips into soft clay. The marks were wedge-shaped, sharp and clean. And from those wedges, a script was born. Cuneiform, the first written language on earth. Imagine the quiet of that room. The only sound, the soft click of reed on clay. Outside, the city hums with life. Children chase one another through the alleys. Merchants bargain in the square. But here, in the scribe sip's chamber, the air is still. Every stroke carries weight, the weight of memory. He writes the symbol for grain, then for temple, then for king. When the tablet is full, he sets it in the sun to dry, hardening the words forever. For the first time in history, a thought will outlive the man who made it. As the years pass, the symbols evolve. At first, they are simple pictures. A fish, a house, a star. But soon, they grow abstract, shaped by the rhythm of language itself. The scribes discover they can record not just objects, but ideas, love, faith, war, sorrow. Clay becomes the mirror of the human soul. In temples, priests record the offerings to the gods. In palaces, kings command their deeds to be carved in stone. In markets, traders tally goods from distant lands. Writing spreads like fire, from city to city, from God to man. It is no longer only for record keeping, it becomes power. To read and write is to speak the language of the divine. Only a chosen few may learn. The scribes are the memory of the city, their words sacred, their tablets eternal. They write in clay, but their ink is destiny. Among them stories begin to bloom. At first, simple hymns, songs to Inanna, goddess of love and war. Then, longer tales of kings who sought immortality, and of floods that swept away the world, of gods who shaped mankind from the mud of the earth. These are the world sip's first myths, the first echoes of imagination. And through them, humanity learns to remember not only what is, but what was, and what might be. Outside, the city grows louder, grander. Uruk stands tall, its ziggurats casting long shadows over the plain. Messengers carry clay tablets between temples and courts, each sealed with the mark of a king. The air smells of baked earth and smoke. Everywhere, the evidence of thought, solid, heavy, unchanging. Time itself has found a way to be recorded. The storyteller sticks, voice softens. Think of it. For thousands of years, humans had spoken their dreams into air, only for the wind to carry them away. Now, for the first time, those dreams are trapped in clay, preserved like fossils of the soul. But writing does more than preserve. It transforms. Where once the word of a king was fleeting, it now becomes law. Where once faith was spoken in song, it now lives in text. Where once history was a fading tale, it now becomes record. The clay remembers everything. The trade of grain, the birth of an empire, the fall of a city. And like the rivers that gave it life, the writing begins to flow, shaping, nourishing, eroding, carrying humanity forward. In the temples of Eridu and Nippur, priests begin to record hymns to the gods. Lines of poetry unfold in cuneiform, soft as prayer, sharp as command. They write of creation, of light emerging from darkness, of mankind born to serve the divine. From clay we were made, they write, and to clay we shall return. Perhaps they saw in their tablets a reflection of themselves, fragile, temporary, and yet reaching for permanence. As the centuries pass, writing becomes the pulse of Mesopotamia. Libraries rise beside temples. Shelves of clay tablets fill the rooms. Records of trade, dreams, omens, and lore. Each one stamped with seals. Each one a fragment of eternity. Two ones a fragment of eternity. One day, deep in the city of Uruk, a new story begins to take shape. It is not a record of trade or kingship, but of a man, part god, part mortal, who seeks the secret of eternal life. His name is Gilgamesh. His story will travel across centuries, across empires, whispering of loss, friendship, and the search for meaning. It will become the first epic of humankind, written in cuneiform, preserved in clay, and though time will bury it, the words will wait for thousands of years to be found again and read aloud by those yet unborn. Think of that silence, the long sleep of a tablet, hidden beneath layers of sand and stone. For every great city that rises, another falls, but the words remain. Even as the rivers change their course, even as empires crumble to dust, the clay still holds its breath, waiting for curious hands to find it, and to hear again the voices of the first writers. Tonight, as you drift between thought and dream, imagine yourself walking through a library of clay. The air is warm, the light soft and golden. Around you, thousands of tablets whisper, a hum of forgotten stories, each one once touched by human hands, each one a heartbeat preserved. You reach out and brush your fingers over a line. The symbols feel rough beneath your skin, ancient, patient, alive. And as you trace them, you realize you are touching the beginning of all memory. Outside, the city hums under the stars. The scribes have gone home. The tablets lie cooling in the moonlight, hardening into immortality. In the distance, the ziggurat glows faintly, a beacon for gods and men alike. Somewhere inside, a king dreams of uniting the lands, of building something greater than all that came before. The rivers flow still, carrying whispers of destiny. The world has learned to write, and soon it will learn to rule. Beyond the horizon, a conqueror waits, a man who will gather the cities under one crown and carve his name into the dawn of empire. The clay has spoken. The words of the first scribes have found their way into the heart of every city. And now, those cities begin to dream of power. This is the age of Sumer, the world's first civilization, where gods and kings walk side by side, and where the voice of humanity grows stronger than ever before. The land between the rivers shimmers under the morning sun. Canals weave through fields of barley and wheat. Farmers bend low with sickles of bronze, their movements slow and rhythmic, like waves upon the shore. In the distance, the towers of Uruk and Lagash rise, giants of brick and stone. At the heart of each city stands a ziggurat, a mountain built by human hands, its stairways stretching toward the heavens. The people believe their gods live at the top, watching, judging, blessing the faithful. Each brick, each offering, each prayer binds the city to its God, and the God to its people. In Uruk, the goddess Inanna reigns, the morning star, patron of love, battle, and beauty. Her temple gleams in the light, filled with the scent of incense and rose oil. Priests move in silence, their chants rising like birds into the sky. To the south, in Eridu, the wise god Enki whispers secrets of water and wisdom. He is said to have taught humankind the art of civilization, how to dig canals, build houses, and record knowledge. In his honor, the waters of the Euphrates are considered sacred, their ripples carrying prayers across the land. This world is alive, a patchwork of city-states, each one a kingdom unto itself. They trade, they argue, they wage war, but they also share dreams. From Sumer comes the rhythm of law and order. Kings rule by divine right, but even kings must obey the sacred codes. Each city sit's ruler is chosen by the gods, a shepherd of the people, a protector of the sacred flame. One such king, mighty and restless, will rise from Uruk, his name carved in clay and remembered forever. Gilgamesh. He is 2/3 divine, 1/3 mortal. A hero, a tyrant, a seeker of truth. His story will become the first great epic of humankind, etched into tablets and hidden for millennia beneath the sand. But for now, the man himself is still a living legend, ruling his people with strength and pride, searching for the meaning of eternity. In a world where even kings must die, in the markets, the air hums with life. Traders from distant lands fill the streets. Akkadians, Elamites, travelers from the mountains and the sea, they bring lapis lazuli, ivory, copper, and tales of lands beyond the desert. Sumer's reach grows wider with every passing year. At night, the people gather beneath the stars. They watch the constellations drift across the sky. The bull of heaven, the scorpion, the archer. To them, these are not distant lights, but the faces of gods watching over their world. Sumer is not just a place. It is a heartbeat, the pulse of creation itself. But even in this golden age, shadows linger. For every harvest, there is a drought. For every peace, a whisper of war. City turns against city, each claiming the favor of the gods. The rivers that once united them, now divide them like a blade of water. In the temples, priests interpret omens, a strange alignment of stars, a flood arriving too soon. These are signs of divine discontent. And when gods are displeased, men must bleed. Sacrifices are made. Prayers rise higher. And the kings of Sumer, in their pride, begin to build monuments that touch the clouds, ziggurats that pierce the heavens, as if to challenge the gods themselves. Still, amid the turmoil, beauty thrives. The Sumerians invent new song, new instruments, the lyre, the flute, the drum. Their music drifts across the plains, carrying joy and sorrow in equal measure. They carve jewelry of gold and carnelian, paint pottery with spirals of life and death, and create seals, tiny, intricate stones, pressed into clay to mark ownership, love, and legacy. Everywhere, art flourishes. Not for wealth, but for remembrance. The people of Sumer are teaching the world what it means to leave a mark. And so the centuries turn. The cities grow taller, the kings grow prouder, the gods grow quieter. Sumer, the shining cradle of civilization, has reached its height. Its people have conquered the rivers, the land, and even time itself. But greatness carries a heavy price. Beyond the horizon, strangers are gathering, a people of the north, hungry for conquest, led by a man whose name will echo through the ages, Sargon of Akkad. He will rise like a storm over Sumer, uniting the cities under a single crown. And in doing so, he will build the first empire the world has ever known. The storyteller's voice fades into the sound of wind. For now, the fires of Sumer still burn bright, their light stretching across the plains. But in that light, a shadow grows, long, slow, inevitable. The gods have given humanity wisdom, and now they will watch to see what we do with power. Sumer's fires glow against the horizon, but a new light gathers in the north. It begins as a rumor, a name carried on caravan tongues, a shadow moving along the river road. Sargon, a cupbearer who rose from service to sovereignty, from obscurity to legend. In the hush before dawn, when the sky is ink and the rivers breathe, his story begins. They say he was set upon the water as a child, hidden in a basket of reeds, drawn from the river by kindness, raised by fate. Whether myth or memory, the tale fits the man. For Sargon will learn to ride the currents others fear. He will take what is fluid and force it into form. Not a city, not a kingdom, but something larger than the world has yet imagined. The plain lies open, fields of barley, canals like bright threads, cities with proud ziggurats and older gods. Between them are jealousies, between them are walls. Sargon moves through those spaces, like a blade through cloth. One by one, the standards of Sumer bow to him, Kish, Uruk. His armies march with dust at their heels and silence in their ranks, disciplined as the geometry of stars. He is no mere conqueror. He is an arranger of power. Akkad becomes his center, a city of command more than memory. Its name a drumbeat that echoes up and down the rivers. From here, he draws lines across the map, roads for messengers, storehouses to feed the marching seasons, fortresses where borders blur. He measures what can be measured, grain, soldiers, days, and tightens the weave of the land until it holds. The language of his court rides out with his banners. Akkadian, the tongue of empire, threads itself through markets and temples, alongside the old Sumerian prayers. Clay tablets multiply orders, inventories, treaties, dreams of reach and ration. Scribes seal them with images of kings and stars, as if to say this is the will of the heavens, pressed into earth. In the palace, a calm that is not peace. Sargon sits with map and stylus, his gaze like a horizon. He appoints governors, plants loyal hands in distant soils, gives daughters to priesthoods so that power speaks softly from sanctuaries too. He is the still point of a turning ring. Around him, the world learns to move differently. But empires are weather. They rise like summer, they pass like storms, and they depend upon the sky. For a time, the gods are generous. Harvests swell, canals run bright, the soldier's ration is assured. Then a shift, subtle at first, creeps into the calendar. Rains falter, winds arrive thin and bitter. Fields that once shone with grain begin to show their bones. Sargon endures, the lattice holds. A second king follows, then a third. the most radiant among them, Naram-Sin, Sargon's grandson, who declares himself king of the four quarters, who takes the title and dares a divinity of his own. On a mountain of stone, the carvers show him striding upward, horned crown gleaming, his enemies tumbling like broken constellations at his feet. It is a picture of ascent so perfect that it cannot last, for every climb has an air so thin it bites. The empire stretches to the edges of breath, north toward the mountains, west toward dust, east where rivers change their mind. Each edge pulls. Tribute must travel farther. Orders must cross harsher lands. The road grows long between command and obedience, between hunger and the hand that feeds it. Whispers gather with the wind. Caravans speak of the Gutians, restless in the hills, a people of rough language and hard hunger, arriving like weather no one ordered. At first, they are a rumor, a problem for another season. Then, they are at the door. Famine does not march, yet it conquers. Where canals once shone, mud hardens. Where granaries once echoed with grain, dust speaks in a dry voice. A year passes heavy, then another. The gods seem far, omens grow strange. Naram-Sin consults the priests. He consults his courage, and the empire, woven tight, begins to pull apart stitch by stitch. In temples, the scribes keep writing, as if words could hold walls together. Deliveries, deficits, defiance. Clay remembers each. Every city that once sang the name of Akkad now hums another song. Quieter, local, bruised and old. Governors grow wary, soldiers thin, borders blur where the map demands lines. The Gutians do not need to conquer. They need only to arrive when the sky withholds its mercy. From palace roof to market stall, people watch for rain. When it comes, it is too late or too soon, too little or too much. What Sargon bound with order, the weather loosens with indifference. And yet, in the wreckage, something endures. Schools of scribes still teach, potters still turn wheels, wombs still carry tomorrow. The human work is stubborn. At last, when the empire loosens to a shape like memory, Akkad fades into the mist of names. Its bricks are taken, its streets repurposed, its seals reborn as trinkets. But ideas travel differently than stone. The road network, the idea of provincial rule, the vision of one horizon, these do not vanish. They sink like seeds into the soil of the future, waiting for another season, another hand. Sargon becomes a story told at evening, a parable for princes. How to gather the land under one will, and how even that must bow to time. Naram-Sin becomes a lesson carved in silence. The higher the crown, the thinner the air. The Gutians, too, recede, weather passing, horizon clearing. Akkad is gone, and yet it remains, not in walls, but in the grammar of power that cities now understand. Down along the great rivers, Sumerian prayers still rise. Old cities rediscover old pride. Yor, wise with scars, begins to stir again. A second breath called the Ur-3 revival. Tidy with tablets and careful with law, as if order could be rebuilt by neat columns of numbers and names. For a time, it works. But the world has learned to move in larger patterns, and the winds of far kingdoms are beginning to blow. Tonight, as lamps dim and the plain exhales its heat, you can hear a murmur beyond the edge of Mesopotamia. Not a raid, not a rumor, a mood, from deserts and caravan roads, from cities with tongues of Aramaic and Amorite, comes a new ambition, smoother than conquest, quieter than storm. A city will gather it, a city of gates and gardens, of laws that speak through stone and stars. Its name has not yet filled the sky, but its syllables already warm the lips of traders and sages. Babylon. The river slides on, indifferent and eternal. Somewhere, a scribe lays aside an Akkadian tablet and begins another. Same clay, new seal, different king. Empires pass like seasons, but the hand that writes, writes on. And in that hand is the soft thunder of tomorrow. Sleep now, with the dust of a card drifting back to earth. When you wake, the gates will be higher, the laws more precise, and a dream of wonder will rise from brick and myth. Follow the lanterns east, along the river bend. They will lead you to a city of measure and marvel, where gardens hang and time itself is given rules. When the empire of Akkad faded into dust, the land between the rivers fell quiet once more. Cities that had burned with pride now whispered in their ruins. The wind moved through broken ziggurats and empty courtyards, carrying with it the faint scent of cedar, and the memory of kings whose names still glimmered in the clay. But time, like the rivers, never stands still. From the silt and sorrow of that silence, a new city began to stir, a place that would outshine all who came before it. A city of color, music, and mystery. Its name was Babylon. At first, it was nothing more than a small settlement by the river Set's Bend, a quiet place of fishermen, farmers, and potters. Yet something in its soil seemed restless, as if the earth itself remembered greatness. Stone by stone, wall by wall, it grew. And as centuries turned, Babylon began to shimmer like a mirage in the desert light. Imagine walking its streets at dusk. The sky burns gold above, and the walls glow with deep blue tiles. Each one hand-shaped, glazed, and set with the image of lions and dragons. Through the great Ishtar Gate, you enter a city alive with sound. Merchants call out in many tongues. Musicians pluck strings beside the market stalls. It is a crossroads of the ancient world, where Sumerian wisdom meets Akkadian ambition. And traders from Egypt, Persia, and India bring treasures for the king. A ziggurat so vast that it seems to touch the clouds. The people say it is the house of the foundation of heaven and earth. Its stairways wind upward like a spiral of faith, and from its summit the priests study the stars. To the Babylonians, the sky is not chaos. It is a script, written in light, read by those who dare to look upward. Here, astronomy becomes sacred art. Each movement of the moon, each flicker of a planet, is part of a divine conversation. The priests record it all on clay tablets, mapping the heavens with a precision that would astonish ages yet to come. They measure eclipses, chart the seasons, and name constellations that still linger in our skies today. They are not merely watchers of stars, they are listeners of eternity. And below, life flows like the river. The people of Babylon build gardens on terraces, their roots tangled with stone, their flowers blooming against the desert air. Some say these are the hanging gardens, a wonder of the world, a place where vines curl like green rivers, where palms sway above waterfalls that never dry. Whether legend or truth, the image endures, a paradise built by human hands. to soothe the longing of a distant queen, or perhaps the longing of humankind itself, for beauty that defies the barren earth. The storyteller pauses. But Babylon is not only beauty, it is law, it is order. It is the promise that civilization can bind chaos with reason. In the royal palace, a king sits upon his throne, stern, wise, and immortalized in stone. His name is Hammurabi. He is not merely a ruler, but an architect of justice. He commands that all the laws of his kingdom be carved upon a single black pillar. Rules for trade, for property, for family, for faith. And when the pillar is raised before the people, he stands beside it and says, "These are not my words, but the words of the gods made visible." The code of Hammurabi becomes one of humanity, Surf's first great legal systems, a mirror of morality set in stone. It declares that the strong must not harm the weak, that each man must answer for his deeds, and that even kings stand beneath the shadow of divine law. And somewhere in the crowd, a child watches the king, the reflection of sunlight trembling on the black stone. He does not yet know it, but he is witnessing something eternal. The moment when justice becomes more than power, when words become the chains that bind kings as well as men. Centuries pass. Kings rise and fall like tides, and Babylon changes with them. Sometimes a beacon, sometimes a battlefield. Under Nebuchadnezzar II, the city reaches its golden age. Its walls stretch wide enough for chariots to ride side by side. Its temples shimmer in the heat like distant fires. And the river, split into canals, winds through the city like a silver thread. Everywhere, the hum of life. Builders chanting, scholars teaching, women weaving under the shade of palm trees. Babylon is not only a city, it is a living idea. The dream that humankind can build heaven upon earth. Yet even paradise cannot escape time. Beyond the horizon, new powers stir. Persians from the east, their armies vast, their patience endless. They move like the rising of a new dawn, quiet but unstoppable. One night, as the lamps of Babylon flicker in the wind, the gates open without a fight. The soldiers of Cyrus the Great enter the city, their swords sheathed, their orders calm. The empire changes hands, and the golden city passes into legend. But Babylon does not die. It becomes symbol and story, a name that will echo through scripture and song, a word that will come to mean both wonder and warning. And tonight, if you listen carefully, you can still hear it. The murmur of the Euphrates flowing past the old gates, the sigh of wind through shattered brick, the soft echo of a priest's prayer rising to an empty sky. For all its splendor, Babylon was always a mirror, reflecting the best and the worst of what we are. Ambition and faith, wisdom and pride, creation and fall, all bound together in its dust. And though its walls have fallen, its light lingers in every city that dreams of greatness, in every law that seeks justice, in every heart that dares to build something that outlasts time. The rivers still flow, carrying echoes of Sumer, Akkad, and Babylon, each one rising from the last, each one leaving behind the same question. How long can a dream endure before it becomes legend, before kings and empires, before walls and laws? There were gods. In the land between two rivers, every wind, every flame, every drop of water had a soul. To the people of Mesopotamia, The world itself was alive, a vast temple where unseen hands shaped fate from dust and storm. At the top of their heaven sat Anu, Lord of the sky, the father of gods, the keeper of judgment. Below him, Enlil, god of air and earth, the one who spoke through thunder and commanded the winds. And deep in the sweet waters beneath the world, Enki the wise, the friend of mankind, who whispered secrets of craft and knowledge. Together they wove the fabric of life, not from kindness, but from balance. The gods were not merciful. They were mirrors of the world itself, beautiful, terrible, and vast. In every city, a god ruled as king. In Uruk, the bright and fierce Inanna, goddess of love, war, and the morning star. In the gentle Nanna, the moon, who watched over the tides of birth and time. Each temple was a bridge, a place where humans could reach upward and perhaps be seen. Priests tended to the gods as if they were alive. They bathed the idols, dressed them, fed them offerings of bread, honey, and wine. Each dawn they sang hymns. Each dusk they whispered fears into the smoke of incense. For to the people of Mesopotamia, life was a conversation with the divine, sometimes kind, often cruel, always necessary. But the gods were not distant. They loved, they quarreled, they punished, they forgave. When the rivers rose and drowned the fields, the people said, Enlil had grown angry. When crops thrived, they thanked Enki for his wisdom. When war came, they called upon Inanna to lend them her flame. The world was a story, and the gods were its authors. Yet in their myths, a quiet truth hides that even gods could change, and even gods could fear. They feared the noise of humankind, the restless growth of cities, the endless beating of hammers and hearts. And so, in one of their oldest tales, they sent a flood to wash the world clean. But one man, warned by Enki, built a great boat and survived, carrying with him the seed of life itself. You might know his name, Sip's Echo, Utnapishtim, the Mesopotamian Noah, whose story drifted down through time to find new voices in new faiths. And still, the people prayed. They lit fires at night and sang beneath the stars. They believed that if their offerings were pure, the gods might smile once more, and the rivers would return in peace. Their prayers rose, their songs endured, and though their temples have crumbled, the idea of the divine, the dream that someone somewhere watches over us, was born here, in the whisper of the wind, between the two rivers. Night falls over Mesopotamia. The heat fades from the streets, and the sky blooms with 1,000 silent lights. For the people of the two rivers, this was not just beauty, it was knowledge. They believed the heavens were a message from the gods, written in light and shadow, meant only for those patient enough to read it. On the rooftops of Babylon and priests wrapped in linen robes keep watch. They chart the path of Venus, Inanna's sixth star. As it rises and falls through the seasons, they mark eclipses, record the dance of the moon, and carve their findings into clay tablets, so that the sky itself becomes history. Each night they study the heavens. Each dawn they teach what they have seen, and slowly, through years of watching and wondering, the first science is born. It begins with simple things, predicting floods, knowing when to plant, when to harvest. But soon the questions grow deeper. Why do the stars move? Why does the moon change its face? What lies beyond the edge of sight? The priests of Mesopotamia do not seek magic. They seek pattern, order in a world that seems to live and breathe with mystery. They invent mathematics to measure the movement of the sky, to mark time and distance. They divide the circle into 360 degrees, the hour into 60 minutes, a system that still ticks quietly beneath our modern lives. In their temples, they mix science and spirit like oil and water, separate yet inseparable. The stars are gods, but also numbers. The moon is sacred, but also a calendar. Their curiosity becomes devotion. Their devotion becomes discovery. And through them, the first astronomers, the first thinkers, teach the world how to look upward and wonder why. Beyond the stars, their wisdom reaches the earth itself. They build canals and measure land. They shape clay into tools of geometry, calculate weights and balances for trade. Each discovery becomes a seed, planted deep in time, waiting to grow in future minds. But with knowledge comes burden. To read the heavens is to glimpse fate, and not all are ready for what they find. When comets blaze across the sky, the people tremble, believing the gods have spoken. When planets align, kings call for omens, for prophets to explain what cannot be undone. The sky, after all, is a mirror, and sometimes it reflects more than light. The storyteller sits, voice fades to a whisper. Still, they keep watching. For centuries, eyes lifted to the dark, hands pressed to clay, hearts full of quiet fire. Because even then, in a world of gods and kings, some part of humanity was already reaching beyond them, searching not for worship, but for understanding. And in that search, the stars began to whisper back. Every civilization believes its walls will last forever. But time is patient, and even brick remembers how to crumble. The rivers still flow, but their course has shifted. The canals that once shimmered with water now lie cracked beneath the sun. Crops wither, temples fade, and the laughter of children echoes like memory through empty streets. The great cities, Uruk, Babylon, each in their turn, the bow to silence. It begins slowly. Trade falters. The floods come too early, or not at all. Kings argue while the people starve. The gods, once loud in their temples, seem to grow quiet, their idols staring blankly into dust. From the east come whispers of strangers, new peoples, new tongues, new ambitions carried on the wind. The old world has grown tired, and the rivers that gave it life begin to feed new lands instead. In the city of the last king walks along the walls at sunset. He looks out at the horizon, at fields turned to sand, at canals swallowed by time. He does not rage. He simply listens to the wind moving through the reeds, to the faint rush of water far away. He knows what every ruler learns too late, that nothing built by hands can stand against the tides of centuries. The invaders do not come with fire, but with footsteps. They settle, they trade, they write their own names on the same clay. Where Sumer once wrote its laws, civilizations do not vanish. They change shape. They sink into the next, like rivers joining in the sea. And the language fades, hidden in tablets, buried in the sand, waiting for curious hands to find them once more. Somewhere, deep beneath the earth, a scribe sip's final tablet sleeps. It tells of rain and harvest, of stars and kings, of hope written just before the darkness came. Thousands of years later, it will be found, and when it is read aloud again, the city will rise once more, not in brick, but in memory. So the rivers move on, the wind carries the dust of empires, and history closes its eyes, only to dream again. The cities are gone now. Their towers lie beneath the sand, their ziggurats swallowed by time. But if you listen, really listen, you can still hear them. The rivers still whisper their names. Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, like ghosts drifting through the reeds. Somewhere under the earth, a clay tablet rests. Its surface is cracked, its edges worn smooth by centuries of silence. But the words remain, pressed by a hand long turned to dust. They still speak. They tell of kings and gods, of floods and stars, of people who learned to dream in brick and fire. They tell us who we were and who we still are. Archaeologists brush the sand from these stories, one grain at a time. In the glow of their lanterns, ancient words awaken, marks made by reeds and faith, and suddenly the world sip's first voices rise again, whispering across 5,000 years. It is as if the rivers themselves remember, as if civilization has been holding its breath, waiting for someone to listen. We live in cities now, vast, bright, restless, but their bones are the same. Every road we build follows the lines once carved by Sumer. Every law we pass echoes the justice of Hammurabi. Every story we tell still carries the rhythm of Gilgamesh's grief and wonder. Mesopotamia is not lost. It became the heartbeat of all that followed. The storyteller smiles gently. Close your eyes. Imagine the twin rivers under the stars, the Tigris and the Euphrates, flowing endlessly through sand and time. Their waters still glimmer with memory. Their voices still hum beneath the noise of modern life. The cradle of civilization never truly fell. It simply became the world we live in. So when you look up at the night sky and know that someone stood beneath those same stars 5,000 years ago and wondered what they meant, and when you speak, remember, you carry the echo of the first written words, pressed in clay beside a river that still flows. History does not end. It sleeps, and every time we remember, it wakes again. This was the story of the land between two rivers, the first dream of humankind, and the whisper that still moves through time.